Hey DeRusso with Majestic Rider. So today I'm going to talk to you about the pace. What is the pace? The pace is when your horse moves laterally. In other words, the legs on the same side move together. And you get a gait that is 2 beats, like the trot, because there's a part of it that has some suspension in it. So the horse moves side to side. The reason we don't like it is it's not very comfortable. If your horse is step pacing, that's actually a 4-beat gait, and that can be quite comfortable. But the pace, or what they call the hard pace, means just bumpier, is usually very uncomfortable. So where are your horses' gait? So there's a gaited spectrum that we all talk about, and the pace is on one side and the trot is on the other. And your gaits are in between. So say your horse, when you are trying to gait it, it paces. So your horse's gait is in between the pace and the walk. So if your horse is pacing, the idea, in case some people have told you to do this, is not to go faster or drop the reins and make it really loose. The idea is to actually go slower and get the correct footfall first. So you're trying to get the same footfall as the walk, which is 4 beats. And then over time, you just speed it up and go faster. So if you do it correctly, you'll stay out of the pace. Anytime as you go forward, if it feels bumpy and uncomfortable, you want to half halt on the reins, which I've talked about before, and slow the horse down. Now the problem is some people's horses are very pacey and they're bred to pace. Even when they're going slow, like a slow walk, some of them can pace at the walk. So that's where you have to start. You cannot start faster or you're just going to be chasing yourself around in circles. You have to start with that slower walk. And the easiest way to do it is to get that horse walking over things in order to separate its legs. So you can use poles. You can walk it on the trail and walk it in rough footing or over rocks. You can use deep sand. You can use deep grass. You'll hear people use lots of things to do it. The other way to do it, if you're not going to do it naturally, is to put a heavy shoe on the horse or it has a longer foot. And that's another way to get it out of the pace, but I am trying to do it naturally. So we try to use it to do it with training. Now some of these horses are bred so hard into the pace because they're bred for that show ring, and then when they put the heavy shoe on, they do the correct gait. So for some of you who have those horses, it might be a longer road. Or if your horse is older and he was used to having those shoes on, he may have paced for 10 to 16 years. So getting him out of the pace is doable, but it is a very hard thing to do. Most of these horses have inverted backs. In other words, their back is like this. And their head is usually high up in the air. So some of these horses, you can just bring that head down and round their back out, and they'll come out of the pace, and then they'll start gaiting actually quite nicely. So if you're lucky, that will happen. Some of you will bring that horse's head down and round their back, and that horse will still pace. So again, you have to have different tools in your bag to figure it out. So bringing that head down will help, but it might not always be the answer. But bringing the head down and rounding its back is better for the horse than riding it inverted. So you might have to bring its head down and then walk over poles over and over again. What you're trying to do is build muscle memory in that horse. You're trying to change the way he needs to move, and he's going to have to learn it all over again. Kind of think of a person who's had a stroke. They knew how to walk before, but then they have to relearn to do it again. And they can if they're motivated. So you can with your horse as well. As if you're motivated, you can get it. If you're going out with riders and they are going fast and your horse is pacing, your horse will continue to pace. It's not like it's all of a sudden gonna gait very well. It might hit it for a second or two, but then it's going to be back out of it. So it's best to teach that horse to gait at home and then gait alone on trail and then with one horse and then add more horses. A lot of times as horses get excited or antsy, they will start to pace, and that is a major problem. But so first you have to teach the horse to relax in its gait and then start riding it with other horses in different positions in the front and in the back until it can do those things relaxed and stay out of the pace. So the main things to remember is when your horse is loose, he paces, and when you ride him under saddle, he paces. His gait is going to be between the walk and the pace. So anytime he paces, you need to slow him down or her down and then use something to separate the legs to try to get that gait. You will have to do this over and over again and be consistent for that horse to actually stay out of the pace. You may have to ride this horse with a fair amount of contact using your half halt so you can catch the horse quickly before it goes into the pace. You can also try to give it the message that I do not want you to pace. So when they pace, you give them something to do that is not very comfortable. In other words, you could stop, you could back up, you could stop, back up, and make a circle backwards, anything to get that horse's idea that it is not a good thing to pace. You can make a noise. You usually hear me in my videos as I'm training the horses saying, because before that, I usually stopped and backed them up and made that noise. So they know if they hear that, the next thing coming is that I'm going to stop and back them up if they don't go back into that correct gait. Now, some of you will take your horses out on trail, and as you leave home, those horses are going to pace. And then on the way back, your horse gaits very well, right? Has that ever happened to you? And you're thinking, well, he knows what to do. Why won't he do it? Well, because they don't want to leave home. So again, you have to motivate them to leave home and then give them motivation not to want to come home so fast, which I've talked about in other videos, so I won't cover that here. So if your horse is doing that, then he may know how to gait. It's just you getting it out of him and showing him that if he gaits, it's going to be easy for him. If he doesn't gait, you're just going to make things harder for him by giving him different jobs to do. Again, anything that helps separate that horse's legs will help him to gait. So we talked about going over poles, going over objects, riding in rough footing, riding in deep sand. You can serpentine the horse. That can also help. You can leg yield the horse. You can move its shoulders over, and you can move its hindquarters over. Those are all dressage movements. So if you don't know how to do those, learning how to do those will actually then help to get your horse's legs separated. The more relaxed your horses will help to get him out of the pace, and the more you can control his body parts will also help you to get him out of the pace. So I hope that it helps. You'll see many of my videos where horses were pacing and then they no longer are, and that is the way I did it, but it takes time, patience, repetition, and you have to actually know when they're doing the correct thing and they're doing the wrong thing. If you consistently let that horse pace, he will not know it's wrong. If you let the horse pace sometimes and not other times, he will still not understand that is wrong. So if you're going to fix it, you do not want to let them pace any longer under saddle. What they do when they're free running around is perfectly fine. If they pace, trot, gait, doesn't matter. You can't control it. But you can control what they do under saddle. So if you're going to fix this, no longer let that horse pace under saddle. And if it's too hard for you, get a gaited horse trainer to fix it and then have them show you how to keep it. And remember, it's muscle memory. So if that horse gets out of shape, say you train this horse, you get it to stop pacing, and then you don't ride it for 3 months. Is it going to pace again? Yes, because it has to keep those muscles up to keep it in shape in order to gait. The pace is a very easy thing to do. And they don't need a lot of muscle to do it, but they do need muscle to gait. So if your horse gets out of shape, remember you might have to do some of those exercises again until he gets his gait back.